Hi everyone, so I'm going to do the foundation tag today, and nobody tagged me to do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway, damn it. Yeah, you guys know I like to talk about skin products and face products and products dealing with the complexion. That's really my focus, I feel like, at the end of the day, because anybody can tell you how good an eyeshadow is, but an eyeshadow that's either really good or really bad. There's not really any in between, I think, but there can be, you know, moderately good foundations and less than average foundations and really great ones and really bad ones. So I figured, yeah, I like to explain myself so you know my reasoning behind these things. I also added a few questions onto the end of the set of questions because I thought that the original set was actually really stupid. I think what they did was they took a regular tag video and then just tried to specify it to foundation, but I don't think it really works in this case, so I'm going to include some other helpful pointers. And I'm going to include like all of the foundations that I've ever talked about that I've ever owned. Even if I don't have them with me, I'll just insert pictures because I think I have most of them photographed. Or I will just insert the name or something. I'll figure it out. I don't want to insert a picture that it didn't take though, because obviously there's copyright issues. But the best packaging. Now this is kind of tricky for me because part of me wants to say that little Shiseido sun protection, which is because it's completely cute and adorable. It's a same color scheme as this, you know, orange and blue, but it's in a little, you know, round, misshapen little bottle. Super cute. I didn't bring it with me. But then at the end of the day, I realized my aesthetic is very sleek. It's very either black or white or neutral colors and very, very simple and pared down. So, and also because I just get a little bit of juvenile pleasure off of this. Chanel foundation bottles, it doesn't matter what they are as long as they have this cap. Something about that click is just super satisfying in a way, but the only problem I say with the Vitalumière one is the cap doesn't really stay on that well. Sometimes with continued use and you pull it, if you pick it up by the cap, it'll pop right off. But there's something about that. Any of the glass foundation bottles, and plus I think they just look beautifully done. You know, you've got the embossed, like they emboss it into the top. And it's Chanel, I mean that's not gonna look tacky on your dress or top, you know? I don't think. Best color payoff, which I guess is supposed to be the fullest coverage. The fullest coverage I've ever used is the CoverFX Complete Coverage Cream Foundation. I didn't bring it, I didn't feel the need to. I have plenty of good concealers that'll cover. And that one I really only used for concealer, and I would sheer it out like completely till it was absolutely nothing because it's just such full coverage. But again, did not bring that guy with me. And they changed the color shade range like weeks after I bought it, so good job. Most versatile and buildable. I'm actually going to say the Chanel Perfection Lumière Velvet. And you might be thinking, what? That's not coverage. There's no coverage in that, Chris. What are you talking about? And you're right. But the thing is you can do layers and layers and layers and layers of this and it doesn't look like makeup. Like it still doesn't look like you've just put an extra layer of foundation on. Now that probably has something to do with the fact that the texture is like really runny, but whenever we would test this at the counter, we would actually put it on top of the makeup we had on, foundation, powder, concealer, everything, and if you put it even on top of existing makeup, it still doesn't look like makeup. That actually just mattifies the skin, so we would touch people up with that all the time and just use this to mattify their skin and take away some shine without making it look like we put more makeup on. So to me that's like the most buildable, because if you can layer it and layer it and layer it and layer it and it doesn't look like makeup, that's the goal. Best for travel, any of these kind of guys, like the Shiseido Sheer and Perfect, Perfection Lumière Velvet, anything that's plastic and you can just throw in your bag, but they're still firm enough to where if they get squeezed they're not going to gush out everywhere. A caveat to that is the worst for travel, and that's Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer. I've traveled with this multiple times in my carry-on bag, and it still is like, it exploded everywhere multiple times on me. And I'm like, why am I still traveling with this? But, you know, like when I moved my stuff, obviously, you know, on an airplane, you don't really have much of a choice. Even moving here, I wrapped everything extremely tight, put everything in Ziploc bags, nothing else exploded except this one did. So, and I think that's just always, even though they, I think, have changed the packaging a little bit, like they have a new distributor or manufacturer or something, there's still issues with the packaging. So next we have Biggest Regret, YSL Le Teint Touche Éclat, simply because their shade range doesn't really match me. And I've exchanged it multiple times to try and get the perfect color, and this is still a little too pink in the bottle. On the skin it looks okay, but yeah, their beiges are still kind of pink, which makes me mad. And their beige doré, the doré 40, which I bought initially thinking perfect, you go from a 40 to a 50 and it's like you've jumped 2 shades, not 1. So the difference is night and day. Like, for example, it would be like, oh geez, I don't know, going from a color like this to a color like that. But imagine this sheer glow darker. And I noticed that with their new Fusion Ink foundation too, that it was a lot of like, the colors didn't make sense. Like a 20 was lighter, or a 40 was lighter than a 20, but in different undertones. Like, get it together, come on. But as much as I love the packaging and I love the way it looks, still wish I kind of like didn't buy it because it's not the right color for me, and like it's an average foundation. It's not, doesn't leap bounds for me. It looks nice, but best color names. The people, like Kristen Game is who I got the video from, but Lisa SZ09 did it as well, and they both said they didn't have best color names, and I'm thinking, girl, it's obviously MAC, obviously. Studio Fix Powder or any of the foundations, and it's also, I'm gonna do like best color names slash best shade range, because like, think about it, they have NCs, which is neutral cool, they have NW, which is neutral warm, they have Cs, and I think they have Ns as well, so C being extremely yellow and N being extremely beige. And I think in general MAC foundations, if you have ever had an issue trying to match your skin tone to a foundation, go to MAC and chances are at least one of their formulas will, because when they do it really well. And while I think the foundations lean extremely yellow or extremely pink, I think Bobbi Brown also makes a really good shade range, although I don't really like her naming system. I mean, I do, okay, so like, I think the cools are like 0.25 and the neutrals are like zeros, or they just don't have anything on them, but I think she makes a good shade range as well. But I like MAC's naming system better because it's an artistic term. So like cool being yellow because it's kind of close to green and blue, it's on that shade of the side of the spectrum, even though yellow is actually neutral, if you didn't know that. And then neutral warm being pink, but apparently in makeup terms, I have warm undertones because I'm yellow, because that's the opposite of pink, which makes no sense to me. I'm like, why confuse everyone? Really, why? My least used is Hourglass Immaculate, not because it's a bad foundation by any means, and I use the shade Ivory, but because I don't have oily skin, and this is definitely like legit oil control, so if you need legit oil control and you have a lot of acne, this will help. Josh Collier's done a whole video on it, and a whole like complete everything you would need to know about it, and so I'll link that one below. Last but not least, most used slash most loved. Say it with me, everybody, come on. Actually, I'm gonna let everyone, before I say it, answer in the comments, like, what do you think my most favorite used loved foundation is? And I'll give it a few seconds, and then you can see if you're right. But I feel like most of you guys understand me, and you know what I'm probably gonna say. Big surprise, Chanel Vitalumière Aqua. I have it in 30 and 40 to mix and match throughout the year to get the perfect shade. 40 obviously for summer, 30 being the rest of the year. I've made a dent in this. Like, I have used probably about half left in this, and I've never used a foundation more than halfway, or even a fourth of the way. So I think that says something. And I just love it because it's everything that I want in a foundation, for what my preferences are, to look like not wearing makeup, to give a very light evening out coverage, to be able to be buildable, to wear a long time on my skin, to have at least some SPF, and to have a shade that works for me. Everything I could ask for. Now we're on to the questions I added, and I added quite a few more because it's fun. Best for photos, I'm gonna say NARS Sheer Glow, because that's what I wore to get my yearbook photo taken senior year, my like senior photos. There's no SPF, so it doesn't flash back. Also, Luminous Silk is also really good for photographs because, again, there's no SPF and they look like natural skin, which I think is great. The worst shade range, I'm going to have to say Guerlain. I've used the Power de Lumière before in the shade 31 Ombre Pale. They didn't have any shade darker than that, and it was too light for me, but it was the right undertone. They have, maybe for each foundation, they have probably about, I don't know, 5 shades each, and they're all pretty pink, neutral to pink. So as much as I could try to get one to work for me, it just wouldn't look right, and I wish they would expand on their shade range. I really do, because I would love to be able to use them. I think they're beautifully packaged and whatever. But yeah, they just need to get a better shade range. Or I also said Drugstore Foundations because most of them have pink undertones. In any shade, any range that you go to, the warm undertones in L'Oreal True Match are still really pink. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? How the hell is someone with more yellow than me, and I don't even have that much, someone who's maybe, you know, Filipino or something like that, or from any Asian area of the world, any Asian country, they got a lot of yellow to their skin. How the hell are you gonna not include them? Next, we'll move on to worst scent, and oh, look who's popping up again, but the YSL Le Teint Touche Éclat. I can actually tolerate the Guerlain scents. I can't tolerate this scent. It has this weird, it's this weird floral scent, and I'm okay with florals. If it's something really rosy, I can do that. It's like nauseating floral, it reminds me of if you vomited on a flower. That's kind of what it smells like to me, because it's very sickly smelling, like a hospital flower. Ugh. That's gonna be the thumbnail is that face. We'll move on to the longest wearing, the Shiseido Sun Protection, which I don't have with me, but when you think about it, sunscreen is designed to stay on the face, which is why they say, you know, it's good for 90 minutes or 70 minutes or whatever. So if you put a significant amount of sunscreen in a foundation, it's going to really, really enhance the longevity, and I can wear that all day without ever any oil breaking through at all. Shade range is kind of annoying and weird, and it doesn't make sense to me, but it wears a long time. So, and if that's another thing, if you ever really need a foundation that lasts a long time, just try to make sure it has SPF in it, high SPF, even if it's a 30, because that just means it'll last longer. And then there's the worst I've ever used, which is a few different ones. We'll start with Illamasqua Skin Base, most disgusting foundation I think I've used ever. Disgusting. It looks heavy, it doesn't blend, their shade range is kind of weird, it's very there's isododecane in it, I think, which is that shouldn't look, it doesn't look good on this skin. It just looks really weird, and everyone's like, oh my god, it makes it look Instagrammed and buffed in, and if you have to buff it in for it to look really good, and it makes you look airbrushed in person. And I'm like, why would you want to look fake? I want to see that you have a little bit of acne scarring and some freckles. It's disgusting, I think. But if that's your tune, then play along with it, because it's ugh. PhotoReady Airbrush from Revlon. Sparkle, 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 weird texture, gross shade range, blech, nasty. Yeah, so that is my 20,000 questions foundation tag. I'm gonna tag Dustin Hunter because we talked about it and he didn't know what it was, and so I told him, and then I'm gonna ask him to do it. So whether you want to do it or not is up to you, my friend, but yeah, and then Julia, Josh, anybody else that I am in contact with or that watches my videos and makes videos as well, I want to do it and tag me in it, or video response it to me so I can watch it, because yeah, this is exciting for me to talk about, you guys. Foundation. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a nap, I think. It's a little bit off today. Yeah, so that is everything, and I will talk to you guys real soon. Bye.